Alright, Shalom. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. Honors to you brothers that be pushing this truth and sincerity. And it's going to be a quick video focusing in on the missiles that are being prepared to be used to destroy this kingdom. And the first article, both articles are on Russia Today. First article, pretty much talking about Russia ready to repel any nuclear strike, right? Retaliates missile force command chief. That's the statement that was made by the force command chief. And what that statement brings to mind is who are they trying to repel any nuclear strike from? Aren't we in a state of peace? Right? Quite the contrary, we are in a state of war. And if statements like repelling any nuclear strike are being made out there, then we're at the very precipice of all-out nuclear war, such as never been seen before on the earth, but has been prophesied for hundreds of years by the men of the Lord, according to Jeremiah the 28th chapter and the 8th verse, right? That have always come and spoke of the destruction of many kingdoms that have been before America, right, and been before that have stood before Esau, right, and all of them came to, regardless of who within the 12 tribes of Israel believed, alright, whether the people of that particular nation believed, the Most High didn't care, man. He destroyed them. And that's the same thing we're seeing right now. You've got a lot of scoffers, right, to come by wherever they may be, alright. But, when the scripture says in Romans, man, right, but for what if some did not believe, right? Should they make should that make their belief that something to the effect of, does that make their disbelief does that disavow the words of the Most High? God forbid, man. Right? Because the Most High is going to do what He wants to do, and He's already done it because it's written, man. So it's going to happen, man. All right. So I'm gonna read a little bit of this. All right. So it says Russia's strategic missile forces are ready to react to any nuclear strike, right? Even if it is lightning fast. Right, so the moment them Americans set the light on their nuclear missiles and send them over to Russia, guess what? Them Russians are gonna retaliate immediately. But here's the okie doke, right? They're both gonna destroy each other because they're all Edomites, man. And going back into the scriptures, when you read the book of Job, 20th chapter, and Obadiah, man, you find out Esau's gonna be cut off, right? When you go into Malachi, you find out that Esau's the one whom the Most High has got indignation against forever. All right. So what's the implications of that? Right. The Most High said He's gonna cut them off. He's gonna bind them and burn them and cut. There's gonna come a time when there's no Edomites upon the face of the earth. All right. And that's why the Most High set it up that His own house, of which the Scripture says, if Satan's house be defeated against himself, how shall he stand? And that's how the Most High has got it to where Esau's fighting against Esau, right, for complete dominion over the kingdom. Right, the whole earth, in other words, of which was our inheritance, right? Supplanted by our forefather Jacob, man. But the Most High had already set it up in His spirit, going back to Cain and Abel. Right, so He says Russia's strategic missile forces are ready to react to any nuclear strike, even if it is lightning fast. He says SMF Central Command Chief said a retaliatory strike would take place in all circumstances without hesitation. All right, so that's the spirit of them Russians are rolling, and they're rolling out with statements like that. Now you notice them Americans, they've been coming on the angle of supplying Ukraine with missiles and all of that, but you can see here, man, going back to a couple of videos, quite a few videos back when I did the video on the Russian bear won't be backed down into a corner, which is a statement that Vladimir Putin was quoted saying, right? So these Russians are pretty much ready, man. They're the thorn in America's plan, but at the end of the day, it's all the Most High's plan, right? And it says here, if there's a challenge to repel a lightning fast nuclear in any given conditions, it will be done in fixed time. That's dead true. Right, it says the strategic missile forces Central Command Chief Major General Andrei Burbin, right, told Russian news service on Saturday. So that was told, that was pretty much told. So today's March 1st. So that was told yesterday, 28th. Right, that's the statement he made, man. Which goes to show you the kind of times that we're living in. I'm gonna show you another article, all right, illustrating the times that we're living in. Right, it says Russia's strategic missile forces are positioned geographically in such a way that no global strike, right, and this is where it comes very important to read in between the lines, man. He's talking about, you know, military bases across the world, and he's talking about a global strike, right? A global strike can knock them out completely, right? It says. Let me read that statement again so I get the full gist of it. It says Russia's strategic missile forces are positioned geographically in such a way that no global strike can knock them out completely. All right, so you can't take out any one garrison, as it were, and then or missile stockpile, and they'll be done. All right. It says in case of an order is given to carry out any nuclear strike, Russia's nuclear weapons operators will fulfill it. He added. All right, so they're talking nukes, man. They're talking about the proposition of nuclear strikes being launched, man. All right, now going on to the Israelis, of which they play a major part in the impending nuclear war, of which they're most likely going to be the ones that are going to draw Russia out by going up into Iran. Right, and this is what the Israelis are doing. It says Israel asked the U.S. for additional $300 million for nuclear missile defense. For missile defense, but you know it's going to be nuclear, man. It says Israeli reportedly bypassed the White House and asked the U.S. Congress for an extra $317 million to the added President Barack Obama's budget for the next fiscal year. And what does that go to prove? Right, that Israel is an American military base situated within the Middle East. That's all it is. Right, it has nothing to do with them so-called Jews. Well, it has everything to do with them so-called Jews, but it has nothing to do with them being in that land. Right, they're there to instate a military presence within the Middle East. Right, and that's why you see it here. Right, they ain't asking for food, they ain't asking for clothing or anything like that. Right, they ain't asking for housing support. Like, you know, you got them the Moabites going up into Africa and all of that and building infrastructure. They ain't asking for that. They're asking they're actively asking for missile defense, man. Going to show you that it's a military base. All right. It says the requested funds would be in addition to the 158 million already proposed by the Pentagon for Israel's security needs for the fiscal year that will begin on October the 1st. The new allocation will allegedly finance David Sling and Arrow 3 programs designed to intercept medium to long range missiles, right, as well as provide anti-ballistic missiles. But I mean, it goes on and they tell you what they're gonna do and so on and so forth, and then break it down and all of that. But the point is, man, right, strategies are being put in place by both parties, right, but the so-called United States is using Israel, and the Russians are actively out there telling you, look, man, all right, if Israel's gonna make a strike, we're gonna do what we have to do, and that's what they're saying, right? But you know, with that, I'm gonna get into two scriptures real quick. It's the book of Revelations, the 18th chapter, right? And the 8th verse, it says, "Therefore shall her plagues come in one day," and that's the plagues that you're seeing here, man. This is one of the plagues going back to Zechariah, the 14th chapter. You know, where it speaks about this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem, right? And who's the main people that have fought against Jerusalem? The so-called Edomites that have put the 12 tribes of Israel in hardcore bondage, right, for the longest. All right, it says, and therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, mourning, and famine, right? And that goes to show you that it's talking about a nuclear missile, because death, the nuclear missiles bring forth death. They bring forth famine by the so-called nuclear winter that comes forth. All right. It says and mourning, man. So these different countries are gonna mourn when America's destroyed. right? And actively so the people that in America, should they be anyone that's there surviving, they're gonna mourn as well, man. All right, and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire, for strong is the Lord that judgeth. Right, and I'm gonna jump to the last one. It's 2 Ezra, the 15th chapter. And the 27th verse, it says, "For now a plague's come upon the whole world." Right, so it's not, it's not just for the most part, it's America that's going to be destroyed. But once that those nuclear missiles is going to affect the whole earth, man. Matter of fact, it's going to be to where everybody's going to realize just how bad the Most High, right? Just how bad the Most High is. Period, man. Right. It says, "For now a plague's come upon the whole world, right, the whole earth, right, and ye shall remain in them, for the Most High shall not deliver you, because you have sinned against him." So you got the 2/3 in there, and you've got the world in there that have been actively involved within the destruction of the nation of Israel, and you got the 2/3 in there that chose not to follow the Most High, man. Right? It says, "Beholding a horrible vision." And that's pretty much it, man. That I'm talking about the missiles, right? And it goes into something else about the Iranians, right? Being roused up. But pretty much that's all I wanted to get into today. Lord's will, I'll see you on the next one. All right. Say double honors to the elders, GMS. I want to see both of us that be pushing this truth in sincerity. Shalom.